So you decided you wanted to breed your pet boa constrictor. Congratulations, you have lost your mind. Well, all joking aside, uh, breeding boas is no small task. Um, with that said, they are by no means the hardest reptile or even snake to breed, uh, but they're more difficult than some of the other ones. So in this video, we'll discuss the techniques that I have learned and use approaching and during the boa breeding season. I'm Jay. This is Jay's Cryptic Creatures. Let's learn a little bit more together. All right, so I'm going to kick off the video the same way I'm going to end it, and that's by saying do more research. This video will be a good starting point, but please read a couple books, go to different websites, even better if possible, go speak with boa constrictor breeders and talk about some of the things that they've done in the past or what they currently implement. With that said, this book here, the More Complete Boa Constrictor by Vincent Russo or Vin Russo, is amazing, not only about giving you information about breeding boas, but just general husbandry, locality boas, etc. Vin has been doing this for a really, really long time. Chances are he's forgotten more than most of us even know or will ever know. Grab the book. I'll have a link in the description. It supports Vin, and again, it's an amazing resource when you're trying to do some of your research. Like I've alluded to earlier, there is no one-size-fits-all solution to breeding boa constrictors. There are some general rules and guidelines that can help you get there, but really it's practice and observation. So get a couple things out the way. I live in central Massachusetts, and my reptile room is located in my basement. So this is important for a variety of reasons. The atmospheric pressures, temperature drops that occur naturally, the light cycles, all of these things are important when you're breeding your boas to some degree or another. I say this because some of the techniques and things that I do up here won't necessarily translate if you live, say, in Florida. You're going to approach it slightly differently. One of the key things that we want to do in boa breeding is observe and take notes. This is going to be really, really important as you hone in on your techniques and what works for you, making sure you document well the different aspects of the parameters, the temperatures, what you're seeing will all lead to being more successful in the future breeding seasons. This little guy is from a litter that was produced earlier this year. My guess looking at him, he is hypo, potentially jungle in the mix as well. Just nice, clean animal. So I wanted to share that this video will be broken up into two separate parts. This part will cover the things up to the breeding season and introduction of the male and the different things that you'll notice going on, including ovulation and taking us up just up to pre-birth. The second video that will come out later, kind of closer to the end of the season, will discuss the different things you will do at the time of birth and post-birth for the little baby boas. So, two-part video. So for me, my season prepping starts to begin in June timeframe. In June, I begin feeding my females that are going to breed that season a little bit more than normal and maybe a little bit larger meals than normal. I knock up the frequency. That's kind of been working well for me. The size, like I said, maybe slightly larger, but not huge. like normal feedings, use your eyes. Make sure that you're still getting the appropriate amount of bowel movements and the snake is remaining healthy. You don't want an obese female, but you want her larger than maybe typical, to allow her to carry that fat and that protein throughout the breeding season, because quite often the female will go off food once she is gravid. Um, with that said, I tend to stop feeding my males altogether beginning middle of September, and I stop feeding my females middle of September through the beginning of October, somewhere in that time period. Again, observing their behavior and documenting it, and using that be more of a judge of how I stop the feeding. Like I said earlier, my reptile room is located in my basement, so no natural light is really available. So I sort of mimic day-night cycles by just adjusting the general on-off timing of the snake lights, close enough to what the natural sunrise, sunset times are, but I don't go overboard. I don't do external heating until um, the February time period. This allows the room to cool naturally, as it would in nature. What you want to keep an eye on is, the cool side of the snake cage in the low 80s. Keep that hot spot right in the 90s, and everything else should balance out pretty much. Um, during this time, as the temperature starts to change and the barometric pressures start to affect the natural habits of the snakes, you'll find the males get a little bit wandery. They'll see that they seem to be kind of out and roaming. This is a good indication that they're ready to go. And um, like I said before, just keep an eye on what's going on. All right, so you're ready to pair up your snakes. What you want to do is you want to introduce your male snake into the female snake enclosure. If at all possible, don't do it the opposite way. Male goes to the female. What you will hopefully observe, if the courtship is going well and it seems that the snakes are vibing, you will see the male snake ride the back of the females. So the snake will literally be on top of the female. I'll include some pictures if I can to show what this looks like. Um, he'll use his spurs to scrape her back, generally trying to get her into the mood. I will leave the pair together for 3 to 4 weeks or so, at which time I'll pop the male out, put him back in his original cage, and give him a relatively small meal. Uh, some will take, some won't. Um, at that point, I'll wait another 3, 4, 5 days until that meal is fully digested, and then reintroduce into the female enclosure. And I'll continue doing this throughout November, December, uh, January, and February timeframe, somewhere in there. Some of the other things you'll observe during this time is you want to see tail wrapping. So I'll show up an image. It might be a little bit hard to see, but the male will kind of wrap his tail around the female's tail. Please note that just tail wrapping does not equate to copulation. That's something different. It's hard to see, um, but tail wrapping is a good indication that the courtship is working. Um, the big key here in between when you introduce your male for the first time and you remove him completely is, when in doubt, don't pull the male out. Use that as your mantra. Just because what you think is copulation or ovulation, which we'll talk about later, don't always assume that act is complete. Keep the male in there, let them do their thing. There's no real rush. The best thing you can do is let nature take its course. Be observant, but don't be overly involved if possible. So hopefully during this process, eventually you'll see your female get what's called an ovulation swell. So your snake will swell up. Hopefully they'll have a picture that I can show you guys here what that looks like. So that is her getting ready to have the eggs ready to be fertilized, and hopefully babies will come. So after the ovulation, there should be, but not always, a post-ovulation shed. Some people call it POS or just post-ovulation shed. Um, Again, be observant, see when this occurs. The important thing here is typically after the ovulation shed, you should mark your calendar 105 days out because that would be your snake's due date. After the post-ovulation shed, it is important that you keep handling and the manipulation of your hopefully gravid female to a minimum. At this time, you will notice her hopefully hugging the hot side far more often than the cool side, which is a little bit different than the normal state of the boa, which is again a good indicator of her being gravid. Again, keep the handling to a minimum. You want to be less in the mix than probably normal, unless it's absolutely imperative that you handle or move her around. As her due date approaches, you will see her get significantly more active. Again, you'll see her kind of wandering the cage looking for a spot to give birth. Here's another baby from a litter earlier this year. This gal is a motley Aztec, possible jungle. She's awesome. The camera's not doing her justice, but she is pretty dark, which I'm a sucker for darker snakes. Anyway, this video will conclude here with the following video to pick up at the time of birth, and then what you do throughout the weeks and months prior or after birth. As promised, we'll end this video like we began. Do more research. There's lots of great resources out there. I have some links below to Nerd, and I believe Brian Boas. Again, great resources. So with that being said, thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, and let's continue to learn about boas, tarantulas, and other cryptic creatures together. Thanks.